And we are on. Okay, so hello everybody out there, and welcome to another episode of That Film Podcast. I'm your host, David Weaver, and joining me this week is Brian Salzar, and we are short one James Blunt this week, so apologies for that. He did not have a chance to catch anything this week, and so it's just going to be Brian and myself discussing what we saw this week, which we saw actually 3 films, and I think there's no overlap. I saw 2 films and Brian saw 1. So we're going to be talking about The Purge, Anarchy, Sex Tape, and lastly, Brian is going to be talking about the video game movie. Yeah.
Or is it Video Game the Movie?
Is it Video Game the Movie?
I think it's Video Game the Movie.
Okay, thank you for correcting me.
Not that it matters anything.
Well, we'd get an email from Looper about that. So.
Okay.
Okay, but anyways, so yeah, we have that coming up, plus some news stuff. Even though James isn't here, I'm gonna go over a couple news items, anyways, and yeah. So we should get the sucker going. Brian, do you have the top 12 ready?
I also want to say the good news is that with James not being here, the podcast should be a little bit shorter than usual.
What are you trying to say exactly?
Okay, so yeah, hit my music. Number 12 this week is America with 1.6 million. Number 11 is Begin Again with 2.6 million. Number 10 is Maleficent with 3.2 million. That movie's hanging in there.
Yeah, it is.
Right now, 228.3 million total. Number 9, Earth to Echo, is not hanging in there with 3.2 million. Number 8, How to Train Your Dragon 2 with 3.9 million. Man, what the heck happened to that movie? What the heck?
I don't know.
It should be 250 million by now.
That should have been the blockbuster of the summer.
Wow.
It had everything going for it, and it just failed to catch on.
It was animated. It was a child's movie. It was a great movie, and it didn't catch on.
It's an established franchise too. They have a television series and a previous movie, so there was no reason why that shouldn't have done well.
It did worse than the first one, right?
Yeah, it's performing under what the first one did.
Maybe they should just add minion dragons into it, and then.
Oh my God, that would be.
I guarantee you that minion movie is gonna make more money than How to Train Your Dragon 2. Number 7, 22 Jump Street with 4.7 million. Unless it was just 22 Jump Street killed it. There's too much competition.
But they're completely different audiences, though.
All right.
So yeah.
Number 6, Tammy with 7.4 million. I don't know if it's doing so hot at 71. That seems like a low number.
It's 71 right now?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good for, a typical, comedy. I don't think that they spent too much on that thing.
Yeah, they made their money back for sure. No Adam Sandler in that one. Transformers: Age of Extinction with 9.8 million. That one has 227 million total, and I think the number 1 movie of the summer. Oh wait, Maleficent.
No. I think that so far they said X-Men: Days of Future Past is number 1.
Okay, let me go down.
But
yeah, 230. It's really close.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting that Transformers, even though it's at 200 something, and it seems like a lot, this Box Office Mojo was showing that at the Transformers 3 was at the same date, at the same number of weeks after release, was at 300 something million. So this is a 100 million decrease in profits. So
maybe it's what we discussed before, where there was a lot of good movies coming out this summer, and they just basically ate each other up, where no one could really grow.
Yes. Maybe. I don't know. I think that was probably the case for May, but once again, I don't know why that would happen to other stuff like Transformers and How to Train Your Dragon.
I'm just trying to make excuses as to why I'm losing the summer movie draft. Okay, let's go on with number 4, and probably one of the biggest bombs this year, Sex Tape, with 14.6 million. And the number one reason I'm guarantee why it didn't do well, the name Sex Tape.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
I'll chime in on that here in a bit.
Number 3, Planes, Fire, and Rescue with 17.5 million. Number 2, do you think it? Well, you probably already know the numbers, right? So, number 2 is The Purge, Anarchy with 29.8 million, and number 1 for the set. What was that?
I was gonna say I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, you thought it was gonna be number 1?
No, I'm surprised it did that well.
Oh, I think people kind of liked the first one.
People hated the first one.
Well, I'm saying a lot of people saw the first one, so why? I thought they liked it.
It had a steep drop off. Like it made like 35 million its opening weekend, and it ended at 65 million. Like it couldn't even double itself over its lifetime.
Well, also remember it didn't even get to number 1 this week, so
yeah,
too bad. And then, like I said, the competition was Sex Tape and Planes. There's no way Planes is gonna make more money than How to Train Your Dragon 2, right?
No.
Okay. Number 1 for the second week in a row is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes with 36.2 million. Get ready, and I heard the name of the next one is Battle of the Planet of the Apes.
That's what I'm hearing too.
Okay.
So, and looking at James's draft that he sent us, looks like Planet of the Apes is at the 139 already. That's pretty good.
Yep.
I think that's going to have no problem crossing the 200 million barrier.
It's already doing better than the first one.
Oh, definitely.
I just wonder how the next one makes any sense, movie or story-wise, of what they will do, because the name consists of a big war, big battle, but I don't know.
They have to find some.
How many years in the future does it go towards, or who knows?
Because what made the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, for me anyway, so good was that it wasn't so much about how the apes took over the planet, which is definitely depicted in or began taking over the planet, which is definitely depicted in the movie, but it once again was about all the characters and their interactions. If they could find a way to do that same type of character work in the next movie, the battle would just be icing on the cake at that point.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to figure out how a battle would make sense in that scenario.
You mean why would there be a battle?
Kind of. But how would it take place? I mean, they're eventually leaving to the part of the astronaut crashing onto Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Do they do what I said and just don't even create a fourth one and just continue out the original series from that point forward? Or they all transition to New York or something?
That would be the smart thing to do.
It would be.
So, yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that when we get in, however they get into the next one, like the battle for the planet's already going to be underway. We're probably going to be coming in at the tail end of the battle.
Okay.
Would be my guess.
I'm also already calling Caesar's dying at the end of the next one. So.
What? Spoilers.
Oh, sorry. The sun takes over.
But I don't know. Should we? Well, let's go over the draft real quick here. Since James isn't here, we can take over on the duties for this. So, I mean, we were neck and neck there for at least a week or two. But it looks like I am pulling away a little bit. I'm at 854 million right now, with James about 40 million behind me at 813, and you are at 729 million right now. So I still, this is still the closest we've ever been.
It is.
With this stuff.
Well, the first year wasn't even fair, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, the first year was just like, yeah. That should never have counted. We should have given James our $20 like the opening weekend of Avengers.
Yeah.
Oh. But yeah, I don't know. There's still some more stuff coming up here. We've already mentioned Brian's got Guardians of the Galaxy coming up, and then James has got the Turtle movie, and let's see here.
How far ahead of you are you of me?
Of you, I am about, what is that? About 120 something.
Okay.
Guardians of the Galaxy could bring in that much at least. At least. And the other movies I have on my list, I don't think any of them are going to top out over 50.
I think the big one, honestly, is Turtles for James. I have no idea what that's going to do.
It could be.
If it could make 200 million, first I would have no faith in society. Second, I think James would win it at that point.
And he's also got Hercules and Lucy coming up next week, and those two are kind of like unknowns how they're going to do.
I was kind of getting interested in Lucy, though. But
no, it looks good. It looks good.
Looks different, I think. But I don't understand a woman who gets all these powers. How can anybody ever beat her, ever? From the way they're showing what she does in the trailer, throwing people around with psychic ability or whatever, I mean, what's the challenge in all of that? Unless that's at the ending or something.
Maybe she becomes too powerful and she can't, and she just kind of collapses from all the pressure. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. It could be. Who knows? But anyways, so yeah, I guess there's not really much more to update with the draft.
But Hercules is on a bomb, right?
Well, let me tell you, that is a good segue into our first news story of the week.
And then we didn't plan it. That was all written.
We did not plan that at all. So yeah, going into our news here. So Brian asked if Hercules is going to bomb or not. So here's our first news story of the week. Legendary comic book writer Alan Moore, his credits are Watchmen and V for Vendetta, among many others, has called for a fan boycott against the upcoming Hercules movie.
Why does he care?
Okay, so here's the reason why. Alan Moore is citing that his longtime friend of over 40 years, the late Steve Moore, they have no relation between the two, they're just friends, and I'm not sure exactly when Steve Moore passed away, but I think it was within the past year or so, that Steve Moore, who wrote the Hercules comic books, wanted no part of the film adaptation. He was on record as calling it idiotic shit.
Shit. Like
last year or this one? What's that?
Wasn't there a Hercules movie that came out last year?
I think there was a Hercules movie that came out this past January that bombed, but it wasn't based on his comic.
Okay, this one's supposed to be based on the comic?
This one is this is based off his comic.
Okay.
They purchased the rights to it.
Okay.
So yeah, he calls it idiotic shit, and and apparently he was even pleased at the fact that due to the contractual agreements he has between him and the comic book company who owns the rights, which is called Radical Comics, that it would ensure that his name would not be used to promote the film, because apparently that was written into his contract that for some reason or another that his name would not be attached to anything that he did that was sold off to be made in another form or something. Not really sure what was going on there, but in any case, he was happy that his name was not going to be used to promote the film. But Alan Moore, who's making this outcry for a boycott, is claiming that the studio is actually in fact using Steve Moore's name to promote the film. That he's actually seen promotional ads and posters with Steve Moore's name on it, and he's thinking that they're doing that likely in hopes of bringing in comic fans. That if the fans really want to support, and he's saying that if the fans really want to support Steve Moore's legacy, that they should boycott the film. Now, here's actually Alan Moore's quote. He says, "I would also ask that anybody out there who gives a damn about Steve Moore or his legacy not go see this wretched film. It is the last thing that Steve would have wanted, and I cannot unrecommend it too highly or anybody involved in it. So, yeah. And by the way, the story comes courtesy of ScreenRant.com. So, yeah, there you go. Alan Moore is saying don't go see Hercules.
Are you seeing it?
I am going to see it.
Oh, wow.
Well, okay. Well, I want to say, like, Alan Moore is well known for his hatred of anything having to do with an film adaptation of any comic book. He disowned the Watchmen and the V for Vendetta films. He wanted his name nowhere on those. He just completely hates the process of adaptations, of adapting like a written work into a film. So this isn't too out of his territory to be bitching about this. Except this time he's doing it on the behalf of his friend. So
okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I still think the movie's not going to be good, just mainly because they got Brett Ratner to direct it, who is the guy who made X-Men: The Last Stand. The best thing he's ever done actually is the Rush Hour movies, and even those are kind of like, you know, not exactly fantastic. So
you got lucky with the first one.
Yeah, and the second one was funny, but the third one was atrocious.
Was there a fourth one?
No, thank God. Okay. But in any case, yeah. So Hercules, I feel kind of bad because The Rock. This was like supposedly a passion project of his. He's wanted to make a Hercules movie for a very long time, and all this stuff is coming, I think, together to completely ruin this film for him. So, too bad about that. He should have got somebody other than Brett Ratner, though. That's on him.
Did you say he was financially responsible for this movie?
I don't think he's financially responsible for it, but I wouldn't be surprised to see his name in the producing credits.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised at all, actually. So, but yeah, that's our first story.
Did you have any more Rock stories? Because I have one you could add to this one.
Oh no, what's up?
So I guess Rock kind of let us slip in a way that he's going to be in the new Shazam movie by DC.
Oh my God!
And they're just like, they don't know if it's like the villain character or actually as Shazam. Okay, go ahead. Go on next story. By the way, David's shaking his head for those that can't see.
Yes, I'm shaking my head. Yes. I think anybody out there looking to get into a superhero movie just needs to go to Marvel. I think DC is going to be dead in the water when all these things start coming out and they turn out to be complete crap.
I really hope that Marvel sticks to its guns and releases Captain America on the same day as Batman versus Superman.
That would be perfect. Okay, so next story, and I'll no real lead into this one. So, all 25 seasons of the Simpsons television series are to be aired chronologically on the FXX network, and it is reportedly to be the longest television marathon in history.
How many episodes?
552.
On what day?
They haven't given a date yet. Apparently, FXX, the FXX channel, has recently obtained the rights to all 25 seasons of The Simpsons, and to celebrate that, they're going to be doing this extremely long marathon of all 25 seasons in chronological order.
Do you know anybody that still watches The Simpsons?
No. Which I think is funny.
Season 4?
I don't even know what season I stopped at. But I think it's funny that I don't know anybody that still watches it, but apparently its ratings are still through the roof.
Wow.
So somebody out there is watching. I don't know who.
I know James was a big Simpsons fan. I don't know if he watches it anymore.
I think even the biggest Simpsons fans, I don't think they've outgone all 25 seasons. I think that's too much.
Yeah.
Like everybody has to give it a break sooner or later.
Yeah. Maybe it's like a new group of people.
because like as much as I love South Park, like I haven't been able to keep up with that. I mean that's getting close up there also.
Yeah.
For the number of seasons, so.
Yeah, but they're kind of keeping it modern, I think, in a way. They're talking about things happening now in the world, where Simpsons never really brought those things up, right? Their own individual stories on the Simpsons.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm telling you right now, when I go to Florida this summer, I'm really looking forward to seeing the Universal version of the Springfield area.
Oh yeah.
They're building that in
That's
Hollywood
right.
now for next year, but they have it already in Florida. So I'm kind of want to do a Krusty Burger thing and a Flaming Moe's and all that
Weren't
stuff.
they supposed to be doing a Hogwarts or a Diagon Alley or whatever in Hollywood also?
Yeah, this upcoming year is Simpsons. It's basically mostly a food court area, and then they're
Uh-huh.
doing a Fast and Furious thing this year on
Oh yeah.
2015, and then
That's right.
2016 is Harry Potter. They're building all that right now.
Okay. Great. And while Florida gets all this great stuff, we get the Minions ride.
Minions Ride wasn't that bad in Florida, but I did it 2 years ago, so it's a little old for me.
Okay. All right. So there's only one more story for me to go over, and this isn't really a story as more of a warning to anybody out there. Apparently, the Guardians of the Galaxy cast list has been revealed. I think you can go to IMDb and see it, but the warning comes in the fact to stay away from it if you want anything left a surprise, because apparently they list all cameos in the cast list. So, beware.
Now I'm shaking my head. God.
And this is a big enough issue that it actually made the news route, like through numerous news outlets. So, and they were all basically warning everybody to stay away from it. Why Marvel would do that, I don't know. It's kind of stupid. I mean, because in the past when there's been like surprise actors or characters in a movie, they usually let those names come out like after the movie's released. I don't know why do it like this much in advance. It's silly. So, but anyways, stay away from the Guardians of the Galaxy cast list if you want to remain surprised when you see the film.
We should text James and tell him, hey, go shout out IMDb.
Oh. Just send him a link.
Yeah.
That would be horrible. But yeah, that's it for news this week. It wasn't so much reactionary as it was just me reading them off to you. So apologies for that, but still there's some interesting things in there. So anyways, I guess we could move into our reviews. Unless Brian, you have anything else you wanted to bring up before we do that?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Let's see here. We didn't really discuss this in the beginning, but did you want to lead off, or did you want me to do one of mine first?
I'll go first, and then you can do the other two.
Okay, so have at it, sir.
Okay, so my movie of the week is Video Game the Movie, which is an independent documentary about the history of video games. And I really didn't know too much about it. Maybe I saw a trailer a few months ago about it. But one of our listeners, Looper, reached out to us via email saying that we should check out this movie since we talk about video games occasionally. And since I was being honestly lazy this weekend, I didn't want to go out to see the Purge or Sex Tape, even though Purge kind of interested me. I decided, well, I'll just sit home and watch this on Amazon TV because it's only in like maybe 2 theaters, at least in LA area, but it's all over the internet on Google, I believe, on Amazon, like I said, and probably Netflix in a few months. But yes, I play video games not as much as I do when I was a kid, but the history is always interesting to me. Learning about the people involved and where it's coming from. And it's only like an hour and a half, so why not, sit down and watch it at home. So I started watching this movie, and it does definitely do what it states out it's going to do, is basically give you a history of video games. And the problem that I have with this movie, and it's not really the movie's fault, because I'm sure there's no one as, or not that many people as freakish as I am when it comes to these things, but I knew all the history already of video games. And when you're trying to condense it into an hour and a half, it makes it pretty difficult to watch, because they skip a lot of things or glance over them really quickly. Um, for example, there's one scene um, where I think they bring up the Sega Genesis in one like small clip. I think what's his name, Will Wheaton. They also have famous actors like giving their ideas of their video game life and what they've done in their entire existence when it comes to video games. And Will Wheaton brings up the Sega Genesis in like one or two sentences, and then that's it. They never talk about anything like that. And there's a whole history
What?
of that era of video games.
Sega does what Nintendo don't.
Right, and that whole, and that kind of started the whole console war. I mean, you could kind of say Nintendo in the original Nintendo and the Sega Master System were the first ones, but there was really no competition, and only a few people had Sega Master System. It wasn't until Genesis came out and then Super Nintendo came out that people really started fighting about which system was better. So I figured they could just kind of make a movie solely based on that. They don't talk about the Dreamcast. They don't talk about they talk about the arcade scene for just a little bit of time. And like I said, it's very hard to do in an hour and a half movie. So I would say, in closing, because I'm not going to go too much into it, as a brief history into the genre, yeah, it's worth the hour and a half watch. But if you really want to go into further details on it, what I would recommend is going to YouTube and checking out the G4 videos that they released when G4 was a video game channel. When they did those history moments, where I think they had a half hour to an hour for each, storyline. And to me, that was much more interesting than this movie overall.
Yeah, I don't know how you skip the Dreamcast. Not because not because the system was awesome, which it was, but that was a pivotal moment in video game history when we lost Sega.
Right.
It's
And
like how do you skip that?
a lot of it's based off Nintendo and Sega, and Sony PlayStation. But then they don't even talk about how Sony PlayStation came to be, which I think is the most interesting story. Nintendo basically saying, we don't need your help anymore with the CD. We'll go with Philips. And Sony says, F you, basically, and creates their own thing from that.
I wonder if it's just really hard to get concrete information or to find people to talk about it.
Right.
Because I'm pretty sure you won't find anybody at Nintendo to sit there and talk about how they screwed up.
Can you edit this for a second? I go answer the door real quick.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
Edit. Okay. Okay. Was there anything else you wanted to say about the movie before we move on? Hello? I can't hear you all of a sudden.
Sorry, I must have pushed a button.
Ah, there we go.
Okay. No, I'm good. Unless, did you have any questions on it or?
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, it sounds like that they just missed a lot of important stuff. But I mean, okay, well, one question I guess
Yep.
is where did it start at? Did it start back at Pong, or did it
Yes.
like it did?
Basically, it started at the typical question of who created video games,
Uh,
and a lot of people said it was the dude from Atari,
mm,
and a lot of people said it was the other guy who did like Space War or whatever it was.
mm.
Yeah, that's where it started. But it was showing you dates, the system, and the games of that era, and then kind of a list form, and then it would just go back and forth real fast. So it would jump, like it will start and go in order, and then all of a sudden we'll go back to like the beginning of Nintendo, and then go up, and then go back into Super. It was really weird.
I think maybe the history of video games is too vast to cover in an hour and 30 minutes.
Right,
They needed to pick one subject and focus on that.
right, and it's all in
So,
documentary form and stuff that you would possibly see in like Trekkies or something like that, but
mm,
not as much as entertained. They're not like following a certain video gamer or anything like that.
okay, okay. I might check it out when I, like you said, eventually hit Netflix.
Yeah,
So,
$7
alrighty.
on HD on Amazon right now.
Oh, and you reminded me, and I was actually surprised to see this. Apparently, a movie I reviewed a couple weeks ago called Snowpiercer is available on demand at the moment.
That's quick.
So, um, yeah, I guess that's part of the release strategy. But yeah, you can get it in your home right now. So anybody that was interested from it to see it and doesn't want to go out to the theater to see it, you can now rent it at home. So just FYI. Um, so that's gonna lead me into my two movies this week. I'm gonna start us out with Sex Tape, which is the new comedy starring Jason Segel and Cameron Diaz. Um, and what to say about this? Uh, so going
Mhm.
into this, going into this, I thought that the idea that they were presenting in the trailers, the premise of the film, a couple that makes a sex tape and it gets out, was a good idea for comedy. It was like that's a good jumping off point to make a funny movie. Um, and Jason Segel, I like him. I mean,
Oh,
we've had our huh.
go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say we've had our problems with him in the past, saying that he's kind of he kind of started falling into that rut of like kind of always being himself in every movie he's in.
Yep.
Um, uh, and as far as like but I still enjoyed him in this movie. I'm still a fan of his. There generally if he's in a movie, it usually is something I want to see, regardless of that fact. Cameron Diaz, on the other hand, I've stated numerous times that I'm just not a fan of hers.
What has
I
she
can
done that she was
tolerate
good in? Something about Mary?
something about Mary. Um,
Okay, go ahead, continue.
something about Mary.
Or two.
No, no. She's done some other good films out there. I can't think of them off the top of my head because, quite honestly, I probably either saw them once and completely forgot about them, or just never saw it. Um, but generally, I mean, I tend to avoid her films. The big push for me to see this time, though, is my girlfriend is a fan of Cameron Diaz, and also of Jason Segel. So this was like a 1-2 punch to go see this. So yeah, we went ahead and went and saw it, and I have 3 words to describe this movie: bizarre, unfunny, and boring.
Wow.
Um, let me go down the list here a little bit for you. So, the unfunny part. I'll start off there.
Which is bad because
How
it's a comedy.
Yeah, how they manage to take an idea like this and rip out any sense of comedy from it is amazing to me. Like the actors, the actors are they're, you could tell that they're into it, and they're but they just don't go far enough with the material. The movie's rated R, and there's plenty of like butt shots of of both Jason Segel and Cameron Diaz, and plenty of like them running around naked. And but the thing that kept bugging me, and this does affect the comedy level of the film, was that you could clearly tell that each of the shots were staged so that their I guess you call them their naughty bits were never visible. And when you have an entire movie focused on sex, and a couple having sex, and every shot of them having sex is perfectly staged so you can't see them naked, it starts to become really noticeable after a while, and very, very distracting. um, and it's even more of a mystery that the actors didn't want to go even further than they did. Maybe Cameron Diaz, I guess, probably has a problem with it, but Jason Segel, he's no stranger to nudity. He did Full Frontal in Sarah Marshall.
Yeah.
So and he wasn't even in good shape in that. In this movie, he's in phenomenal shape, and he they don't go that extra mile for the comedy. There's not even like a surprise shot of like something you weren't expecting. Like you could name any body part you want to, but you got a movie with people having sex, as the main story point. And there's any number of ways they could set up the audience for a surprise shot to gross them out or shock them or something like that. There's nothing like that in this. This movie plays it very safe when it comes to the sex stuff, which was really disappointing, and also helped to make the movie less funny. Because, and this was going to lead into the bizarre part of this film. Even though the movie's called Sex Tape, this movie really could have had nothing to do with the sex tape. At the beginning of the film, we see Cameron Diaz monologuing while she's typing on her blog about her sex life with Jason Segel, and how it started out with them in college and they're all lively and everything, and now they're married with kids and they hardly ever do it. And that said, for the sex tape thing, they film the sex tape, which is all off screen, by the way. As soon as they start recording, they cut away and we see the next morning. And then, of course, the upload happens where it goes out to all these people. But at that point, it ceases to be anything having to do anything with the sex tape. It starts to become this kind of like comedy romp about them running around town at night trying to collect all the copies of the tape. And then you start wondering, it's like, why is this called Sex Tape again? Yeah, it's like, yes, they made a sex tape, but other than that, this movie has nothing to do with that. And other than like near the end of the movie, before the end credits start coming up, they actually start showing you clips from their sex tape. Other than that stuff, which some of it was funny, but once again, you could see that they're all staged, and you couldn't see much. This movie, it could have been called anything. And I think, Brian, you're also right that the title Sex Tape didn't help its case any. It didn't even dupe anybody going to see a bad movie.
Yeah.
I don't understand what their concept was. I mean, they I don't know. But the really bizarre thing, though, is like the sidetracking this movie does. Like, even on their journey to go gather up the copies of this tape that got uploaded to the cloud, which in itself is silly if anybody knows how computers work, which they do point out in the film how computers
once it's
work.
out there, it's already out there. How can you get it back?
Okay, well, there's one scene in this movie that really, really bothered me as far as somebody that knows how a computer works, and that's when Jason Segel's about to get the very last copy of the sex tape, and the person giving it to him is handing it to him on a flash drive. And the first thing I was in my mind is like, what's to stop this person from having infinite copies backed up on their computer?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you take the flash. They make a big deal about them destroying this flash drive when they get it. Like they really make it seem like it's the last copy, and there's no way in the world that they would ever know that's the last copy. And they do, and the people who made this movie clearly don't know how computers work and how the internet works, and I think that's really, in this day and age, that's unforgivable.
Right.
Like you watch an '80s or a '90s movie, and people don't know how computers work. You know, you can give them a pass because that stuff was new back then, but not nowadays. But yeah, so they're going around looking for these copies, and they keep getting sidetracked on these little like adventures. Like they go to Cameron Diaz's prospective boss's house that you met earlier in the film, because he had one of the laptops that they gifted him, which got uploaded to his thing because of the cloud and whatnot. And you think that they're going there to get the thing real quick and take off or something like that, but they end up spending like 15-20 minutes in this guy's house. And it's like split between Cameron Diaz being downstairs with the guy and they're joking around, and they end up snorting cocaine, and Jason Segel running around the house looking for the laptop, looking for the iPad, while a murderous dog is chasing him around the house and beating him up. And this goes on for like 15 minutes. And I'm like, once again, you're thinking to yourself, like, this is called sex tape? I don't get it.
How long is the movie?
It's mercifully short. It's about an hour and 30 minutes.
And 15 minutes is just on that part.
Yeah. And then they divert even further later on when they find out that their videos may get uploaded to the internet, like to an actual like porn website. And that's another distraction. It takes about 10-15 minutes where they actually go to try to break into the place and try to destroy their hard drives. And if any of this is sounding unfunny, it's because it is. But the worst part is, and this leads into my third descriptive word, is this movie is just boring. And I shit you not, my girlfriend's the one that really wanted to see this film more than me, and halfway through it, she looked over at me and asked if we could leave.
Wow. How close were you to leave?
Honestly, the movie at that point, up to that point, had become so bizarre and so weird that I honestly was slightly interested to see where the hell it was going next, because none of it made any sense, and I was just really curious of where it was going to go. And like I said, we were about halfway into it, and I don't know. I just kind of wanted to see it through. But
and you like bad movies, so. Perfect.
This isn't one of those bad movies that I like, though.
Okay.
Like it doesn't. I've stated this in the past numerous times on this podcast and older podcasts, is that a movie can do numerous things to me, but the one thing it should never do is bore me. Like it could be bad and I can laugh at it about how stupid it is, but if I'm bored, that's the ultimate. that's the point of no return. Like that, I'm done with you at that point. I can't even recommend you as a stupid laugh.
Okay, so I have a list of.
Whoa, you're breaking up there. Hello?
Hello?
You're breaking up there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I just have a list of those Cameron Diaz movies, and tell me which one she was really good in.
Okay.
I'll go through pretty fast. The Mask was her first one.
No.
The Last Supper.
Never saw it.
She's the One.
Filling
Minnesota. Head Above Water.
Filling Minnesota was funny. Head Above Water was bad.
Keys to Tulsa.
Never saw it.
My Best Friend's Wedding.
That was a good movie. I don't know if it wasn't good because she was in it, but it was a good movie.
I'm talking about she was good in it.
She was a supporting role. She wasn't a starring role in that.
A Life Less Ordinary.
That was a bizarre movie. That's all I could say about that.
There's Something About Mary.
Yeah, we already established that one.
Very Bad Things.
Yes. Okay. She was good in that.
Okay.
She was really good in that. She played a really good psychotic woman in that.
Okay, I'm gonna stop.
Well, you cut out again.
I'm gonna stop right there.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Is your mic okay? Because you keep cutting out at the end of your sentences.
I'm fine. How are you?
Okay.
Go to the next movie then.
But yeah, okay. I'm just gonna suffice to say, don't go see Sex Tape. It. The one thing I told my girlfriend when we were driving back from the theater was like, Sex Tape actually made Neighbors, the movie from earlier this summer, a movie that we all liked, but we said that it wasn't like really like hysterical. Sex Tape made Neighbors seem hysterical to me. So, but there's plenty of other stuff. Go see 22 Jump Street again. That was a much better comedy. But yeah. So moving on, I'm gonna bring up here the Purge Anarchy, which of course is the sequel to last year's surprise hit, The Purge. So I don't know. I mean, last year when we reviewed The Purge, James, and myself, I think you and I were in agreement that we didn't like it, right?
Right.
But James was defending it a little bit, but I still don't think he liked it all that much either. But I think he came to his defense a little bit more. But I think the concept. Oh, go ahead.
No, I said, and I remember us talking about what we really wanted from the movie, which seems like this is what that movie is.
Yes. Yeah. So the early trailers for this showed this movie immediately was no longer inside a confined house with a family under attack. It was out on the streets. Multiple people. Out on the streets under attack or attacking other people. Clearly they understood what people wanted from that first movie, and I think that they pretty much delivered on it with this film. This is definitely superior to the first Purge, just on that point alone, where they expanded the world a bit more and they gave you a little bit more insight to how the world worked. I remember a lot of my pet peeves were the fact that there was so much stuff that was unsaid about how the Purge worked that it really just made that world seem flimsy. Like one of my questions I had from that first film was stuff like, oh, all crime is legal, so why doesn't anybody go rob a bank, for instance? And they actually answer that in this movie.
And what was it?
Well, they answered by saying that letting you know that the banks, one day or 2 days prior to the Purge happening, they transfer all their money out of the banks.
Okay.
So that way, attacking them is a futile attempt because there's nothing there. So, I mean, that's just a little nugget. I mean, that's just like them talking as they're walking through the city. The main focus of this film we're focused on three distinct groups. There is a couple, a young couple who are driving through the city, going to. I'm not really sure. They said they're going to a friend's house or something, but I'm not really sure of the destination. But they're a couple that's kind of on the brink of breaking up, and they end up their car ends up breaking down just before the Purge starts, so they get stuck out on the streets. And then another group is a mother and daughter who are barricaded into their apartment building for the evening, but their apartment building ends up getting raided by some unknown force, and they get forced out onto the streets as well from that. And the third and final party of the film is kind of a mysterious guy. It's not too mysterious. They put enough hints out there early on so that you get a good idea of what this guy is going out there to do. But there's this other guy played by Frank Grillo, who's basically arming himself to the teeth, and he's actually going out into the Purge on purpose to go out and seek somebody for revenge for something or another. And those are the three stories that get set up, and of course, as you would expect, all three groups eventually converge together. I thought it was a little bit convenient how all three ended up getting together, but I was willing to let it go because up to that point, everything else had been pretty much believable. So I was like, okay, I'll let that go. And then once the group gets together, the movie basically becomes kind of like a tour of the city. Like we're following them through the city avoiding all these different things that are coming at them. And that was probably my favorite thing in this movie, is that you got to see all the different ways, like all the different things going on during a purge, like the different types of crazies that are going on, that are out there trying to kill people. You get to see what happens when somebody that's looking to purge runs into another person that's looking to purge. It's like, do they kind of like, kind of give each other a high five or something, or do they kill each other? Like, they set up those scenarios pretty often throughout the movie, and I really enjoyed that. The thing that I was a little bit on the fence about in the movie is a lot of the political stuff that's kind of like a subtext of the film, where they were talking. There's a lot of subtext in there about the rich class, kind of like running the show while the lower class is being wiped out by the purge. It's kind of, they see it like there's this idea that the purge is like a cleansing of getting rid of the lower class. And it's really hammered home when they introduced a new aspect, which I actually really liked, despite the fact that it was a political message. But they introduced this new thing of like anti-purge purgers, people that are going out there only to kill people that are purging. So
does that make them a purger?
It does, but they're anti-government. They're saying these people are out there purging. So they would raid like some like rich person's place that's purging or something like that, to wipe out like the upper class because they're trying to wipe out the lower class. It doesn't really get really too deep into it. I mean, a lot of it, like, it's there if you want to see it. If you don't want to see it, it's not really in your face. But for me, it was definitely there. But the stuff that kept me going, though, was all the different situations, like I mentioned, that they popped up. One of my favorite moments from the first Purge was when we found out that the boyfriend of the father of the daughter stayed over in the house because he wanted to kill the father of the girl he was dating because he wasn't approved by the father. That was awesome. And this movie has other moments like that.
Okay.
So there's a lot. It's not a lot. But there are moments in this film where, like, ordinary people, we get to see them like purge, and I like it also because it didn't show it so much as like people, like, it's not always people setting out to purge. Sometimes people purge off of instinct, and that was actually pretty cool too. Like, you could be having an argument with like a family member, and it just so happens to be on purge night.
Yeah.
And if the argument gets heated, somebody could pull out a gun and shoot somebody, and it's legal.
Right.
So they explore. They do a little bit of exploring with that stuff as well, and they do also add some mystery to it. Like, there's this semi truck that's driving around the city, and it's like it's like raiding these apartment buildings and bringing people out, and you don't know exactly what's going on with it. But throughout the film, you start getting more and more hints of what that semi truck is, and that's just mixed in there with all the other purging stuff going on. But all in all, this movie just has a lot more stuff going on in it, and I think it does its premise justice this time. I don't think it's gonna win any awards as far as originality goes, because I mean the ending is fairly straightforward. The action, while well done, isn't anything particularly great, especially when the action gets in close because they get the dreaded shaky cam.
Yeah.
So that was kind of annoying every now and then. But all in all, I enjoyed it. Anybody that saw the first Purge and they felt like they wanted to purge after seeing it, I think you'll get a lot more out of the sequel, so give it a chance. I don't know if it's necessarily needed to see it in the theater, but if you want to see, if you're curious about it, I definitely wouldn't say don't go see it in the theater.
So who was the I mean, you're going into spoilers now, but who was the mysterious guy that you talked about?
He was the third party who was going out for revenge.
Okay, so it wasn't like someone special. You said you sound like he was always in darkness or something. Well,
no, he was mystery because you didn't really know his name. You first meet him as he's arming up before the Purge, and when he does meet up with those other groups of people, they keep asking him questions and he never answers them.
Okay.
So you don't really know much about him, but like near the end of the film, and of course at the end of the film, you pretty much find out everything about him.
So the other question I have is, well, I have a couple questions. First one is, does it take place in the same day as the last movie?
If it does, they didn't make any mention of it.
Did they bring anything of the other movie at all? The homeless guy, anything?
No, nothing.
Wow. Okay.
Unless he's hidden in the background somewhere. But I think this movie takes place in a different state. This one takes place in downtown L.A.
Oh, I see.
I'm not sure where the last one was. It definitely. I don't think it was in L.A. though.
Okay.
Oh, and I did like the little jab where they said that downtown was the best place to go purge. That was pretty good.
All right. Well, it sounds like a movie I'll definitely see once it comes out to Netflix or video on demand or whatever. So.
Yes, it does a much better job of fulfilling the promise of the first film.
I wonder why the negative reviews are out there, though. Because you're the second person. I listened to another show, and they were saying that movie was actually pretty good, too.
It's because I mean, when it comes down to it, it's kind of just a dark and gritty sort of action movie. Right. I mean, like I said, there's nothing particularly special about it. And I honestly, I struggle to think of anybody that when they walk away from it, they're going to be going, "That was amazing." It's not one of those movies.
Okay.
You're going to be walking away from it going, "Hey, that was actually pretty good." That's pretty much your attitude you're going to have.
Okay.
So, but okay, yeah. That's it for us. We are fresh out of movies to talk about this week. Let's have a quick look at next week here.
Lucy's next week.
Oh my goodness, Lucy and Hercules. Step Up actually comes out the 25th in another country.
Wow.
I just found that out today. Actually, that actually comes out August 8th. So that's another 2 weeks. The Fluffy movie comes out, and that's limited release. I think it's like 400 screens.
Great.
So.
But everyone should see it if it's playing in your area. Everybody.
Yeah. And, of course, the Woody Allen, Emma Stone movie, Magic in the Moonlight, which is going to be also extremely limited. But I think Lucy's going to be the big movie next week.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in seeing that. Oh, by the way, did you see that trailer for Annabelle?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
And to anybody out there that's wondering what Annabelle is, that's the spin-off movie for The Conjuring, where they take the first 10-minute sequence of The Conjuring where they had dealt with the possessed doll, and they've made an entire movie out of it.
It seems kind of interesting.
It what?
It seems pretty interesting. Different from what you would think it would be.
I did see the trailer for Ouija.
I don't know. I didn't see that one.
The Ouija board movie.
Okay, that's kind of freakish.
It wasn't nearly as interesting as it may sound. So.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah. So we'll be back. I'm definitely going to be seeing Lucy. Hercules is a question mark. It's basically going to come down to time for me. So It Ghost comes out next week also, the Michael Douglas movie. So.
That's my movie too, I think.
Yeah, it is one of yours. Yeah.
Come on, old people.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, we're gonna be back next week with some of those or all of those. We never can tell, and hopefully next week we'll have James back with us. So, in any case, that's gonna do it for us. Like always, check out the website. Sorry it's not updated as often as usual, but you can still find past reviews, and you can also get updates on there for the podcast and for the draft. And also check out the. I should make that announcement now. I probably should have made this earlier in the podcast, but I'll make it now. The video portions of the show are. I'm gonna leave those actually unlocked on the current YouTube feed that they're being recorded on, because I'm gonna be unable to post them on our other feed, mainly due to technical issues, also because of time issues. So yeah, if you want to check out the video portion of it after listening to the audio, just go ahead and man, I don't even know what feed that's on. I'm gonna have to get back to you guys on that. Well, I always use it just to record. I never post them on there, so I never think about what the feed is. But it's through the direct link I always post on YouTube, so you can always find the channel through there. But in any case,
All right.
yeah, we're done. So everybody out there, take care. Have a good week.